Okay, so The Stand, huh? Big book. Kind of intimidating, right? You want to know if it's worth it before, you commit. We get it. That's what we're here for. We've read reviews, like professional ones, book bloggers, even just regular readers, so you don't have to.
Yeah, and the verdict is, it's powerful, makes you think, definitely a classic. It's a lots of characters, tough themes. So we're going to figure out together if it's right for you.
Love it. We'll look at King Style, what it's about, how it compares to other like end of the world stories, and of course, got to talk about those big characters. So first up, the writing. Is this King at his best or what?
Even the really harsh critics, they admit King's good at certain things, like vivid characters, worlds you feel like you're in, and that tension, man, he builds it so well. He can make a terrifying world, but focus on one person at a time.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like it's scary, but also human, even with all the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But gotta be honest, sometimes King's long books, they can be a bit much. Does The Stand keep you going, or are there parts that drag?
Totally fair point. There are some pacing issues, yeah. Especially like the first part, and there are all these chapters about this guy, Trash Can Man. Lots of reviewers said those were slow. But it pays off in the second part when the story, like, explodes. It's epic. The slow start makes the conflict, oh, so good.
Okay, patience then. What about those King themes? Like technology, how's that? Is that in The Stand?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kemper, he's a book blogger. He pointed out that King being, like, anti-technology, especially in that updated 1990 version, it might feel weird to people now, like going back to the old ways being the only way to not screw up again. That doesn't really work for everyone today.
I get that. We use technology for everything, right? Wouldn't that make the story like preachy or just too simple?
True, some reviewers felt that way, but think about it this way. It's interesting to see how King's ideas about technology, even if they're a bit much, might still be relevant now. We're so connected, but also kind of lonely. Maybe King wasn't that far off.
Interesting. Okay, so we've got the style, some theme stuff. Now, what's the story actually about?
Basically, survival, good versus evil after this huge super flu wipes out almost everyone. So the people left, they got to rebuild. But there's also this supernatural fight. Mother Abigail, she's like this 108-year-old prophet, good side. And then Randall Flagg, the dark man, totally evil. You got those classic King things, horror, suspense. But also, it asks deep questions about faith, community, being human when the world's gone crazy.
Intense. Kind of reminds me of Left Behind, that whole good versus evil end of the world thing.
I
How do they compare?
One reviewer, Lynn, actually made that connection, but they said King's characters, especially Randall Flagg, way more interesting than the bad guys on Left Behind. King doesn't make it so simple, good or bad.
So not just a sermon then. That's good. I am curious about this dark Christianity thing some reviewers talked about. Can you explain that a bit?
Sure. So Kemper, in his review, he uses dark Christianity to talk about how King shows faith and doubt, when people are suffering like crazy. It's not about easy answers. It's about asking those huge questions, the kind you get when something terrible happens. King makes you think about, like, God, evil, the tough stuff can be kind of unsettling.
Yeah, starting to see why this book makes people talk.
Yeah.
Not your usual apocalypse thriller. Seems like King's going for something deeper.
Exactly. That's what makes The Stand stick with you. Yeah, it's entertaining, but it also makes you think long after you're done.
Okay, so we've got this apocalyptic world, good versus evil, all these spiritual themes. Now I need to know about these characters. You said King writes really vivid ones. Who are some of the big ones I should know about?
Well, Mother Abigail and Randall Flagg, obviously, right? They're those forces, good and bad. But there's also, like, Stu Redman, we mentioned him, and Larry Underwood. He's this musician, got some problems, addiction, dark past, that kind of thing.
Ooh, musician with a past.
Yeah.
Always a good character. What about the women? Are they as interesting as complex?
Great question. One reviewer, Carol, pointed out that how King writes women and people of color, especially in his older books, can be, well, problematic. Even though the updated Stand fixed some outdated stuff, some of the underlying ideas might still feel iffy to readers now.
Okay, good to know. But still, Larry Underwood, what's his deal? Like, does he just become good? Or is it more complicated?
Oh, it's not simple. Kemper, he thinks Larry's one of King's best characters, says his journey is this painful but hopeful climb out of darkness. King really puts him through it, makes him face his demons, tough choices.
So self-discovery, A&D redemption sounds like. Anyone else I should be looking out for?
Nick Andros and Tom Cullen, they're often mentioned together. It's because they're so different. Their personalities and journeys shows how people deal with trauma, loss in different ways. Nick, he's deaf, mute, but super smart, resourceful. Tom, he's got a learning disability, but his heart is like pure, really inspires people.
Interesting contrast. That difference between them must make for a powerful story. What makes their journey stand out for you?
One reviewer, Alex, talked about the bond between Nick and Tom, said it shows how strong human connection can be even in the worst situations. Their journey, it shows that hope and compassion can still grow, even after huge loss.
Okay, I am getting more and more intrigued by these characters. It sounds like King made these flawed people you can really feel for.
Yeah, that's one of the things that makes The Stand so good. It's not just the apocalypse, it's about the people trying to live, rebuild, find meaning when everything's upside down.
That's a great point. Okay, so we talked King's writing, themes, the whole post-apocalyptic thing, those interesting characters, even some concerns reviewers had. I think I get what to expect, but I'm still not sure if this book is for me. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a commitment for sure, but I think what makes The Stand worth it is that it's like more than just an exciting apocalypse story. King uses this world, this pandemic, to really look at what it means to be human, faith, rebuilding society, all that. Makes you think about uncomfortable stuff, our choices, the world we make.
That's cool. I like post-apocalyptic stories because
Yeah.
they often like make you think about those big things, right?
Yeah.
What makes us human, how we adapt, all that.
Exactly. One reviewer, Nilüfer Özmekik, even said The Stand is their favorite King book. It's because of that layered storytelling with all the different characters and how it deals with those big existential questions. It's not just surviving, it's what happens after. How do you even start a new society, new rules, when everything you knew is gone?
Okay, I'm seeing why people say it's a classic. It's more than just like zombies and monsters. It means something. But practically speaking, I'm still a bit worried about the pacing. You said it pays off, but will I get stuck in those slow parts?
Here's the thing. If you want constant action, twists and turns, The Stand might not be for you. But those slower parts, they have a reason. King builds this whole world, goes deep into the characters' heads. You really feel the weight of their choices, their fears, hopes. It takes time.
So it's about like trusting the process. Those slower parts build to something big, like building suspense, right?
Yeah.
You need quiet to make the loud parts hit harder.
Yes, exactly. A lot of reviewers who were frustrated at first, they ended up liking how those details made the story better. You feel like you're there, it's real, you don't get that in every thriller.
Okay, I'm willing to try. But those religious themes, again, some reviewers weren't happy with how King shows women and religion, especially in his older stuff. Anyone else say anything about that?
Baba, another reviewer, they mentioned the Bible stuff, that whole battle of good and evil. Thought it was a good way of looking at faith, but admitted it might not be for everyone, like people who aren't religious, or if those representations feel kind of off.
Makes sense. So it's not just like good guys versus bad guys. Simple as that.
Nope, not at all. The characters, even those on Mother Abigail's side, they have doubts, temptations, their own issues. They mess up, question things, don't always make the right choice. Even Carol, the reviewer who had problems with some of King's stuff, said the book makes you think about faith, spirituality.
Okay, so complex, nuanced, maybe a little challenging. I like that.
Yeah.
But shifting gears a bit, we talked characters, themes, but what about the world itself? Is it all doom and gloom, or is there hope, rebuilding, all that?
That's one of the best parts of The Stand. It's not just surviving, it's what comes next. King looks at starting over, making a new society after the old one's gone. And yeah, there's darkness, danger, but there's this little bit of hope too. Belief that people can come back from anything.
I feel that,
It's
especially with everything going on lately.
Mm.
We've all dealt with loss, not knowing what's going to happen, figuring out how to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. The Stand gets that. It reminds you that even when things are really bad, there's still hope, connection, rebuilding. That really hits home for people.
I'm starting to think this book is exactly what I need right now.
Yeah.
Something that shows the bad stuff, but also that little bit of hope.
Yeah.
Before we move on, you said someone compared The Stand to Left Behind. Any other books like it? Similar themes, same kind of reading experience.
If you want another epic end-of-the-world story with some supernatural stuff, Swan Song by Robert McCammon is good. Also Good versus Evil, lots of characters, and the world is really well done. Some people even like Swan Song better. They say McCammon's a better writer, and he makes you feel wonder even with all the chaos.
Swan Song. Never heard of it. Is it as long as The Stand? Being realistic about how much time I got.
It's a big one, too. But some people found it more, like, emotionally satisfying than The Stand. They even call it the ultimate good versus evil story.
Okay, adding that to my list. Now, about the different versions of The Stand, there's the original and uncut one. Doesn't matter which one I read.
It does. Kemper, he read both, says go for the uncut. The original was cut down to make it shorter, but the uncut one is more what King wanted.
More King, more content. Sounds good to me. But didn't you say there were some issues with the uncut version? Something about things not fitting the time period?
True, yeah. King moved the timeline up in the uncut version, from 1980 to 1990. So there's some things that don't quite make sense, like characters talking about stuff that wouldn't exist in 1990.
Weird. Why would he do that?
No one knows for sure, but maybe he wanted it to feel more modern, for people reading in the 90s. But some critics say those changes kind of mess up the story, don't make it as good.
So it's a trade-off. More content, but some bumps in the road.
Pretty much. But I still think the uncut version is better. Those little things aren't that big a deal compared to how good the story is.
All right, you convinced me. I bet it is. So after all this, is The Stand worth the time?
Bottom line, it's powerful, complex, and can be hard to read. Not for everyone, and it takes time, and you got to be ready to feel things.
Not a light read then. Got it.
Definitely not. But for people who want a story that sticks with them, makes them think, really challenges what they believe about faith, humanity, rebuilding, it's a must-read. But, and this is important, you got to be okay with the slow parts, those parts that might feel a little off, and just how long the book is. So challenging, but maybe really good. Helpful. What else should I think about before I start?
What are you looking for in a book right now? Fast-paced thriller, lots of action, simple plot. The Stand might not be it. But if you want to take your time, enjoy the details, think about complicated stuff, you'll probably love it.
All right, lots to think about. I appreciate the insights, especially comparing it to other books. Really helps me decide.
You got it. And remember, we've only talked about some things. If you're not sure, read the full reviews we mentioned. They go deeper into what's good and bad about the book. Might help you decide.
Good point. I'll do that. So it's up to me now, right? To stand or not to stand, that is the question.
Exactly. What kind of reading experience do you want? Even if you don't read The Stand now, there are tons of apocalypse books out there. We talked about a few, and there are others that might fit your mood, what you like to read.
True. I'm feeling more adventurous now. Maybe Swan Song is calling my name, but who knows, maybe I'll come back to The Stand later. That's what's great about reading. You can always come back to a book, and it might feel completely different depending on what you're going through, how you see things.
Well said. Okay, I think that wraps up our deep dive on The Stand. Thanks for all the info, and happy reading, everybody. Okay, so, lots to think about. I think I get the good and the bad, but still not sure if it's for me. What are like the main things? What should I really be thinking about before I decide?
It comes down to this. You like those deep character stories, epic scale, and King's, that mix of scary and human. If so, you'll probably love The Stand.
Yeah, those are all things I like. I love King's characters, and big, long stories are cool. But still, that pacing, those slow parts, and those things some reviewers said weren't so great, that's still on my mind.
I get it. Those are definitely things to consider. But if you're interested in the idea, those big questions about faith, surviving, what it means to be human, I think it's worth trying The Stand.
So it's a risk, but a good one, maybe? What else should I expect?
It's not an easy read, that's for sure. It makes you pay attention, think, and deal with some hard truths about people. It wants you to really think, question things, and maybe even what you believe.
That's what I like about King. He's not afraid to push it, make you uncomfortable. But I also like to, escape into a book, get lost in another world. Will I get that with The Stand? Or is it going to be too heavy, too real?
That's a good question. You'll definitely feel like you're in King's world. He's great at that. But yeah, be ready to feel things. It's about loss, sadness, and trying to find hope when things are bad. It's not just going to be an escape, but maybe a different kind, like into what it means to be human.
I like that. Escape into the heart. Yeah. Okay, I think I'm going to do it. I'll try The Stand. I'm ready for the slow parts, the tough stuff, the emotional ups and downs.
Awesome. I think you'll be happy you did. Don't forget, we talked about a bunch of reviews. If you get stuck or want to know more about a certain character or theme, read those reviews again. They're really helpful, can help you with the harder parts of the book.
Right, good point. I'll definitely check those out, especially ones about the characters and the religion stuff. That's where I had the most questions.
Yeah, and remember, everyone experiences a book differently. What one person loves, another person might not. It's all about finding the books that speak to you.
So true. Speaking of personal connections, one reviewer, Justin Tate, he said reading The Stand during the pandemic was a bit too real. Even that maybe don't read it when there's a global crisis going on.
Yeah, interesting.
Right. our own lives, what's happening in the world, it changes how we see and connect with the book.
Totally. And that's what makes The Stand so, like, timeless and relevant. It's about those fears we all have, but it also gives you hope, reminds you that even in the darkest times, people can rebuild, connect, and find meaning.
What a great way to end this. So, to everyone listening, if you want a book that'll challenge you, make you feel things, and stay with you long after you're done, The Stand might be just what you're looking for. And if not, well, there are so many other books out there waiting to be read. Happy reading, everyone.